sometimes more often than not what we do is that if you feel like, oh, my calendar is open for March and I've got a request, let me say yes. But is it really supporting you in that one goal that you have for the first quarter or for that month or for that week? If it's not supporting you in your that goal, then make sure that you set boundaries and learn to say no. Firstly, I want to say a huge hello because it's 2023. I am so excited for the new year because I think the new year gives us a chance to know ourselves better. We've reflected, we've taken time off, we've introspected, we've decided what we want to focus on and what we don't want to focus on. Towards the end of the year, we also get this thing of what we want to let go of and all the things that we really struggled and things that we don't hopefully want to do again in 2023. And that's just what I'm going to share with you, things that I am really looking forward to. I was recently reading this book called 4,000 Weeks, and it so happens that in that book I realized that we have such little time to do what we actually want to do. So I truly believe that I don't want to spend time on things like decision making for trivial things which may or may not even matter in the long run, because we really have very, very little time. In 2022, I spent a lot of time chasing things for my children. Like, I really wish no parent has to go through the struggle of the Jordans, because I spent a lot of time sourcing that for my kids. Give me a hands up if you guys did that as well. I went about chasing prime drinks, filling more Starbucks gift cards and buying more H&M gift cards for my kids and their birthday parties, and I've realized that I need to automate a lot of this process. And of course, before I begin, let's all take a deep breath and be really grateful for the year that has really gone by, because it taught us so many things, more than we can even imagine. So this is not to say I'm leaving behind the past, but I'm taking learnings from the past into the future. I want to talk to you guys about modeling the right coping mechanisms, right? Now, this may sound like a very complex word, but it's very, very simple. I think we all have emotions, we all have triggers, and just by observing, I know that I have started going back into performing things that help me cope better with anxiety, stress, anger, things that actually trigger me. So understanding what are my triggers, what do I do to cope with it, and how do I get a solution to it, right? So it's very simple. Problem solution, and what's the transformation that I'm actually looking for. Also, when I'm in a bad mood or there is a trigger that's set off, I know the things that help me cope, and it could be about listening to a podcast, going to exercise, cooking. These are my remedial procedures, right? Like, they literally put me in a space of calm. So figure out and write those things down, because those will also help you serve as reminders that when you're angry, when you're feeling a particular emotion, what action did you do to get the solution that you wanted? Number two, what I've realized is to be present in the moment and make sure that there is time for open communication. Now, what do I mean by that is, I want to be in that moment with my kids. I've started scheduling time whenever it's possible. I know some of us are working, some of us are remotely working, some of us are client facing. So we may not always have the luxury of doing this activity. For me, it's about making time for bedtime and picking up my kids straight after school. I know that the amount of energy, the amount of conversation that they actually want to have with me is phenomenal. I just get like a vomit of everything that they've done in school. And sometimes it's not all happy. Sometimes it's about a fight. Sometimes it's about anger because they didn't get selected for something. Sometimes it's excitement because they're performing somewhere. So it could be a whole varied type of emotions. But I've understood that these are times that I want to time block for, because I want to be present in that moment. What I try and do is just take work breaks, say I'm not going to be available from this time to this time, and I'm going to be back at my desk at this time, just to ensure that I prioritize being in that moment no matter what. Number three, which is extremely important for me and something that has been a big learning for me in 2022, because I was trying to do too many things and I was miserably failing at a few of them. And I know that just that feeling of failure was giving me a further setback, making me feel inadequate in functions that I was actually good at. I tried doing this and I think it worked. Outsourcing what I'm not good at producing, or which takes a lot of my time, not great at, and takes a lot of time for me to do. And I think one of it was outsourcing cooking, right? I still try and do it, but the minute it became as a chore, I knew that I wanted to. I like the process of cooking. I didn't somewhere like the process of planning it. So I started obviously meal planning way ahead of time, but this time I took it a step further by creating more recipe pools, creating more pools for food and snack, creating more pools for substituting, because that question every evening when it came by, which was "Aaj khane mein hai kya hai," just gave me the creeps, right? It just made me feel like I'm not in control. I have to spend precious time on trivial decision making every single day, and therefore, of course, you guys have the luxury of subscribing to the Kid Stoppers meal plan. Like, imagine if somebody gave that to me at the price at which you're getting it, which means that I'm saving 30 minutes a day for the rest of the year in not thinking about what my family is going to eat this evening. You know how many minutes that actually multiplies into? Well, if you had that luxury, you would realize that it's a luxury you can afford. It's not even a luxury, it's a need in your life, because you can spend that 30 minutes of decision making, you can actually spend it with your child in a much better fashion. So I would totally recommend that outsource what you feel you're not good at producing. Number 4 is also hacking things through, especially productivity. What I realized very important is that I was getting very easily distracted, and I knew that I had to sort of control or reclaim my focus to many things. So I would say certain productivity hacks which work very effectively for me is using apps like Forest, keeping a password manager like 1Password or a Dashlane. And I've spoken about my favorite 5 hacks and favorite 5 apps in a separate video, which I'm going to link it right here. But what really helped me was finding these pockets of productivity with third-party apps and finding productivity windows for myself as well. Like, I know that in the morning, that 9 to 11, before the rest of the world wakes up and the clients get into action, team gets into action, that 8:30 to 10:30 or 9 to 11 window was really precious. So I know that that was my one window. So I would say figure out your windows of productivity, see where you're most active at, where your mind is most active, and use and invest in apps that help you ace your productivity as well. Next up is make sure that you set boundaries. Now, what I mean by setting boundaries is, if it's not a clear yes, then it's definitely a no. This is something that I learned in the book, from the book Essentialism. So I know that sometimes different invites come, different lunch appointments come, different events come, and whatever that case may be for you. For me, I knew that if it's taking me away from my goal, then I don't want to really do that. I sometimes want, more often than not, what we do is that if you feel like, oh, my calendar's open for March and I've got a request, let me say yes. But is it really supporting you in that one goal that you have for the first quarter or for that month or for that week? If it's not supporting you in that goal, then make sure that you set boundaries and learn to say no. I think that no is such an important word that you most definitely need to prioritize it. The other bit in terms of setting boundaries is also letting people know what hours of the day you will be available and what hours of the day you will not be available. Because when you set boundaries for people, for yourself, it automatically becomes a more seamless integration. Last but not the least, I would definitely say is seek support. I think there's one thing that I've learned in 2022 is to just ask for help instead of trying to bear it down on my soul till the hour that I will snap. I learned, and like we all know, which is the rubber band technique, that we all know that a rubber band can stretch, after which it's going to reach its full capacity and it is going to snap. I realized somewhere that snapping was not helping anybody in my immediate circle. I realized that taking on work which is really causing me to be anxious and triggering me all the time was also not doing the job, because I don't want to be snappy with the people I love. Sometimes we take the people we love for granted, and we kind of snap more at them versus anybody else. So I really want to make sure that I am the person I am with my family, just the way I am with the external world as well, which is happy, which is forgiving, which is about making sure that I'm genuinely not being a triggered, angered mother, and making sure that I'm just the same on both sides. I think these are a few of the changes that I want to make in 2023. I would love to know how you are going to support yourself with the right kind of sleep, with the right kind of nutrition, with the right kind of health supplements, with the right kind of exercise, with the right kind of boundary settings, most definitely. So do share that in the comments below, and I would love to know how you're going to support yourself in 2023. For parenting tips, celebrity interviews, recipes, conversations with experts, DIYs, and lots more. Subscribe to Kids Talk Press now.